Hi, today we'll be discussing several introductory concepts, and that is of body organization and of a concept of homeostasis. Um, we can talk about the body on many different levels. The levels of atoms, molecules, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and whole organisms. In this course, we'll discuss the function of the human body at really all these different levels. But today I'd like to just focus on the tissue level right now. And if you remember from anatomy, tissues are groups of similar cells with similar functions. There are 4 types of tissues in the body. And the first 2, muscle tissue and nervous tissue, we'll be talking in the next few weeks a lot about those tissues. So I want to just mention briefly the other 2 types of tissues, which are epithelial tissues and connective tissue. Epithelial tissue, if again remember from anatomy, it lines surfaces and cavities. And by doing that, it creates several functions, important functions in the body. One of it is just providing a boundary across which substances can pass. The other one is secretion, so forming glands through which substances are secreted, and we'll talk more about glands, or you'll read more about glands in your notes and in your text. The other type of tissue is connective tissue, and if you recall, it binds and connects and supports structures within the body. Now, connective tissue is less cellular than epithelial tissue with a lot more extracellular matrix. Remember that adipose tissue or fat is connective tissue, bone, cartilage, blood are all types of connective tissue, tendons and ligaments, and then areolar connective tissue, which is found kind of throughout the whole body and kind of holds everything together. The other concept I wanted to discuss is the concept of homeostasis. Now, homeostasis, and that's really the kind of the theme, a theme that you'll find throughout this whole semester. Homeostasis is the maintenance of a constant internal environment. So it's maintaining a constant internal environment. And it does this through many regulatory mechanisms, which, throughout the semester we'll discuss all these different mechanisms that do that. So, there are many means of maintaining homeostasis with regard to, let's say, pH, blood glucose, blood pressure, ion concentrations, and that's just to name a few of the types of things that we must keep at a constant internal level. And what happens when this isn't maintained? That's when we get disease. And so we'll talk a lot about disease and what happens when these mechanisms don't function properly. So let's give you an example of how this works, let's say outside of our body. So let's say inside our house, we set our thermostat at, let's say I like mine about 68 degrees inside our house. And this we call the set point. I will set my thermostat to 68 degrees in the house. Now, it's been kind of cold at night, and the temperatures have been dropping in, let's say, the 40s. So outside the house, if the temperature begins to drop, what happens? Okay, inside our house, okay, the heater kicks on, right? And you can hear it in the middle of the night. The heater comes on, and what does that do? It brings the temperature back up to our set point, right? Okay, so we can maintain that nice 68 degrees inside the house. Now, during the day, it's been pretty nice outside. It's kind of cloudy today, but let's say if it were to get into the 90s. Okay, so let's say it starts what's going to happen is inside the house, the temperature's going to begin to rise because it's hot outside. Now here in our area, most of the houses don't have air conditioning, but if we did have air conditioning, what would happen? That air conditioner would turn on, and it would bring the temperature within the house back down to 68 degrees, and so it's very nice inside. And so that's kind of how our body works, okay? As levels of different substances fall or rise beyond or outside of that set point, okay, we have many different mechanisms that are going to kick in and bring our temperature, our pH levels, our blood glucose levels, whatever. It's going to bring them back to its set point. And so again, throughout the semester, we're going to talk about many different ways that this occurs. So if we take a look at us, okay, so let's say in our bodies, our set point is what? 98.6. Okay, and let's say if we're back east right now and it's winter time and it's cold, it's, let's say, 20 below. We go outside, what's going to happen? All right, our body temperatures are going to begin to drop. What kicks on? We don't have a heater, but we have muscles that contract, which produces heat. So our muscles begin to contract, we shiver, we produce heat to bring our temperature back up. Okay, if the temperature gets in the 90s or 100 degrees outside, all right, our body temperatures begin to rise. And what happens? We sweat in response. And that's our air conditioning. As the sweat evaporates off our skin, it carries heat away and it brings our temperature back down to its set point. Okay, so keep this concept in mind as we continue throughout the semester. One mechanism that we kind of a name for one of these mechanisms is called negative feedback. And this is a general negative feedback, a general type of mechanism. So, and what it does is it describes, it's a corrective adjustment of the body and allows us to move the condition back to normal. Right? So it's a corrective adjustment. And it's negative because it moves the condition in the opposite direction in which it was going. So our body temperature, as our body temperature increases, the negative feedback is to bring the temperature in the opposite direction back down to normal. There are also positive feedbacks in our body. This is much less common, which is also, it doesn't bring it back opposite, it goes in the same direction as it was going, kind of away from normal. And so an example in our body, you think, why would we want to do this? An example would be when we're giving birth. As contractions begin, the contractions get stronger and stronger, and it moves away from normal condition until the baby is born, at which time contractions stop. So that's a condition of positive feedback. And again, that's much less common in the body. So we'll see lots of negative feedbacks within our body and in physiology. So, all right, this is just an introduction, and I hope that was helpful.